Oh boy, I thought I was done for the night. I thought when I finished that review earlier, I thought I was pretty much done for the night, and I was basically getting ready to pretty much just read some of those post-match thread on Reddit and some of the comments from fans that is reacted to how their team did in today's action of the MLS's back tournament. Until I realized I had four notifications from people saying that my preview of the second match day of the MLS's back tournament had no audio. And I actually checked to make sure if that is actually the case, and it is. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do an emergency preview for the second match day of the MLS's back tournament, where I'm going to look at only the first four games that is going to be happening, because there's no way in the world I am doing 12 game preview right now, especially now it's 11:17, and these preview usually takes about an hour and a half to do it. I am not going to stay up till around 1 in the morning during preview. And also, the reason why I'm doing the first four game is that tomorrow, when I do redo the first 8 game of or these first 12 game of the preview, I only have to do 8 games, and I don't have to switch the boards, and hence that will make me prepare the preview and also upload these video much quicker if I would have just done the whole thing in the first place. So with that being said, let us actually begin our emergency preview for the second match day of the MLS's back tournament. And the first game we're going to be talking about is the Chicago Fire taking on the Seattle Sounders. In fact, by the time that this video will be uploaded, which is going to be close to midnight, this game is going to be about 6 hours to kick off, and I usually never do previews of a game that kicks off at that short of a notice. But obviously, because of what just happened today, we're unfortunately stuck with this inconvenience. So this, of course, is the first game that the Chicago Fire is going to be involved, because the Chicago Fire, their first game was supposed to be against Nashville. That got postponed, and now it's not going to actually happen because Nashville, of course, pulled out of the tournament, and now the Chicago Fire have moved themselves from Group A to Group B, and that this is going to be their first game in Group B against the Seattle Sounders. While the Sounders, they of course drew 0-0 against the Quakes in the last game, and they did not look impressive whatsoever in that game against the Quakes, and definitely did not look like a team that you would think that they would be one of the teams that are heavy favorites of winning this tournament. Now, in terms of the last 5 head-to-head matchup, the Sounders, of course, won 2-1 against Chicago, while the Sounders, of course, then win again the Chicago Fire on the road as they won 4-2. Then the Sounders and the Fire drew 1-1 before Chicago winning 4-1 against the Sounders, and the Sounders winning 1-0 against the Chicago Fire. And what I'm interested to see in this match is going to be to see how the fitness of both of these teams is going to be, because since the Chicago Fire, this is their first game in 4 months, and unfortunately, them alongside with Vancouver are the team that unfortunately doesn't have the luxury of playing a game during the first match day of the MLS's back tournament. Now they're going to have to deal with something that every team had to deal with in the first day of the MLS's back tournament, and that is fitness could be a real issue. Now I also want to point out the Seattle Sounders is not alone in terms of match fitness and their issue, because I thought throughout the tournament, of all the team that I've saw so far playing the first game of the MLS's back, or the first match day of the MLS's back tournament, they look like the team that struggled the most in terms of fitness. Like throughout that game against the Quakes, and especially in the second half, we saw a ton of Sounders player literally went down on the ground and literally cramping their legs because of how fatigued that they are. And now they only got like a couple days of rest to prepare for this game. It is going to be interesting to see how their match fitness is going to be, and that are they going to struggle just like they did against the Quakes in that game a couple of days ago. But either way, this should be an interesting kind of game, and that I'm pretty sure the Chicago Fire would love to have some revenge of what happened on opening day, as both of these teams, of course, met in opening day, and that the Fire had a 1-0 lead in that game, but unfortunately blew it, and that the Sounders were able to come back to win 2-1, including a 3rd-minute stoppage time winner, which I believe was scored from Jordan Morris. And that I'm pretty sure the Fire didn't forget about that, and that they want to have some revenge against the Sounders in this game. But we shall see whether or not if that is going to be the case. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be NYCFC versus Orlando City. Now, keep in mind, as we head into the second match day of the MLS's back tournament, this is going to be a time where we could possibly see teams either potentially get a win to basically secure their spot into the round of 16, or we're going to start seeing team that is going to be facing elimination. And for NYCFC, they're kind of right on that point where they could be facing elimination, and that if they do not beat Orlando City in this game, and that if the Union are able to beat Inter Miami, then NYCFC has been officially eliminated from this tournament. Now, they of course lost to the Union in the last game by a score of 1-0, while Orlando City was able to win and pull off a dramatic comeback against Inter Miami by winning 2-1 against them. Last 5 head-to-head match, it was a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. And keep in mind, the last 5 head-to-head match does not include the U.S. Open Cup. I'm aware that last year they did play a U.S. Open Cup, and it was a 1-1 draw that eventually Orlando City won on penalties. But this game, that it was a 1-1 draw, actually happened during league play. Now, they also drew again in the prior meeting 2 against each other. Then it was NYCFC winning 2-0 against Orlando City. They won against Orlando City again by a score of 2-0 prior to that match. And then NYCFC was able to win 3-0 against Orlando City. So NYCFC seems to have Orlando City number in the past couple of games, but we'll see whether or not if NYCFC can finally get their first win in this game and really get their first goal this season. They still have not scored a single goal this season after getting shut out again, and that I think that's the 3rd straight 1-0 loss that they have suffered to begin the season. Whereas, for Orlando City, they didn't look that impressive against Inter Miami, even though they, of course, had that comeback and scored that stoppage time winner to win 2-1. And that I think this could definitely be a big test for Oscar Pereira team to see whether or not if they're actually for real heading into this tournament, and that they could be a huge threat heading into it. But for NYCFC, they absolutely need to win this game, because if they do not win this game, and I said it before, when you are in this tournament and you lose 2 games in this tournament, whether it's the first 2 game or the last 2 game, you're pretty much automatically going to be eliminated if you're going to lose your first 2 games. Well, most likely going to be eliminated, because there's just no margin for error of dropping that many points in this World Cup kind of format in the MLS is back tournament. But yeah, moving on, in terms of the next match, we got the Philadelphia Union taking on Inter Miami. This is going to be at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, and obviously, let's just hope this game is not going to be delayed, and that we are not going to have circumstances that we had in the Hell is Real Derby. That unfortunately, that game kicked off very late in the evening, and those 2 East Coast teams unfortunately will have to watch that match during the middle of the night. But in terms of this game, the Union of course won 1-0 against NYCFC, while Inter Miami lost 2-1 against Orlando City, as I just mentioned. This is the first ever meeting between both of these teams, and that, again, just like what I said about NYCFC, this is a must-win for Inter Miami. And just as what I also say about NYCFC, if they lose this one to the Union and Orlando City is able to win against NYCFC, Inter Miami is basically done, and that they're basically going to be eliminated in this tournament. And that I think Inter Miami, you could probably say that when they lost to that game against Orlando City in the opening night of this tournament, they looked like they were going to be probably not going to advance to the round of 16, because they got a tough task against a Union team that, although they didn't look impressive against NYCFC, and that they kind of really stole that 3 points thanks to Andre Blake, that was just basically stood on his head in that opening game of this group. Still, you know, this is going to be a really tough task that Inter Miami is going to be up for, and that they don't get any points out of this game. The very next game, they're going to have to face against an NYCFC team that, depending on if NYCFC, of course, won that game, that could really be a game that could determine who exactly is going to be eliminated from this. Well, yeah, who's going to be exactly eliminated from this tournament, and that Inter Miami definitely don't want to be in that position. So they're going to have to win this game against the Union, although it is definitely not going to be easy to take on a Union team that definitely look like they are the favorites to move out of Group A. And then finally, in terms of the final game that I'm going to preview in this emergency preview of the second match day of the MLS's back tournament, is involved my team, the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the San Jose Earthquakes. Well, actually, my team is the San Jose Earthquakes and not the Whitecaps. And it's also the third wheel derby between both of these teams, as this game is actually going to be kicking off at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. This game actually got rescheduled from 10:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and that it's actually the only game that is going to be taking place during that day. As I mentioned, this is going to be the first game for the Vancouver Whitecaps, while the Quakes, of course, drew 0-0 against the Seattle Sounders. The last 5 head-to-head matchup, the Quakes, of course, we remember what happened last time when we play against the Caps, and that we put 43 shots on them. We forced Kripo to basically made a record amount of saves to just keep that game respectable for the Whitecaps to lose to. And that, you know, somehow in some way we only won that game by 3-1. Speaking of 3-1, we also won 3-1 on the road last season against the Whitecaps. Then it was the Whitecaps winning 2-1 against the Quakes before the Whitecaps winning against the Quakes again 3-2 on the road. But this was back in 2018 when the Quakes were a very, very bad team. And that's all I will say about the 2018 season. Then, of course, both of these teams drew 2-2 against each other. And, you know, overall, we do have a very good record against the Whitecaps in the past couple of years. And that I kind of have a feeling in this game for the Quakes, it's a must-win for them. And I don't want to say that this is a must-win. And I obviously don't like to say that this is a must-win game for the Quakes, because every time it seems like I say that a game is a must-win for the Quakes, they always find ways to let me down and drop points in the game. But I really think this probably is a must-win game, mainly because Vancouver is basically punting the football in this tournament. Like, they already have 5 players that is not going to be playing in this game because most of those players are either decide to opt out of this tournament because they don't want to take the risk of participating in this tournament that they could potentially contract the virus, and that their entire front line has been completely wiped out heading into this tournament because their entire front line was part of those 5 players that is out of this tournament. And let's also not to mention the fact that, again, last season we put a record amount of shots against them, and that was against a Whitecaps team that has their A team on. We should be able to beat a Whitecaps B team. Like, if we cannot beat a Whitecaps B team, I have no faith in terms of the Quakes potentially moving on into the next round of the round of 16. And even if we do move on to the round of 16 by drawing or losing against the Whitecaps, I have no faith whatsoever they're even going to be moving on into the next round of the round of 16. So, yeah, this is an absolute must-win for the Quakes, and that I really think if they play like they did against the Seattle Sounders, who I thought they played very well against them. The only issue I had with them when they faced against the Sounders is they did not show up in terms of the finishing department. And the striker on that team, yeah, they did not show up whatsoever. And that Andreas Rios, either he, of course, decided to finally show up, or Wando's going to have to step in there to, of course, score the goals for the Quakes. Because at the end of the day, if you don't score goals in this tournament, or if you just don't score goals in games in general, you are not going to win the game. So Quake's got to find their finishing and their final third in this game against the Whitecaps if they really want to win this game. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for my emergency preview of the MLS's back tournament for match day number 2. Again, tomorrow I will be doing the remaining games that is happening on match day number 2 of the MLS is back tournament, and hopefully this time when I upload the video, the audio will not be messed up and that you couldn't really hear anything in this video. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.